homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the Supreme Bodhicitta. All right, today we continue our study of the Bodhicharyavatara. Now moving into chapter 5. This section discusses practicing virtue by relying on the body. As we discussed yesterday, we must make use of this human body to practice virtue. If we don't use it well, when death comes, it will be of no use or benefit to us at all. So while our body is still healthy, we should make good use of it and apply it to the Dharma. If we use it for the Dharma, then this body truly has value and meaning. If we don't use it for the Dharma and instead use the body to create negative karma, that is truly a great pity. So every Dharma friend should carefully examine their own body and see what it is actually doing. This is very important. The verse says, if you do not give clothes and such to servants who can't be employed, why tire yourself to keep this body that will, though fed, go somewhere else? Here a metaphor is used to illustrate our relationship with the body. If the body is not used for virtuous deeds, then there is no need to take special care of it. This is the point. This point is explained with a worldly analogy. In the world, kings, masters, or wealthy individuals often hire servants, nannies, or maids to do things for them. These workers are hired to take care of the household or attend to their master's needs. Now, if they do nothing for their employers, but instead spend all day eating, drinking, and dressing up, engaging only in meaningless activities, while neglecting all the tasks they are supposed to do, would the master still give them their salary in the end? Would they still receive all their benefits and bonuses? Absolutely not, because the whole purpose of hiring them is to have them do the work. We can see this from examples around us. Some people's nannies do not want to do anything else. Within a month or two, the employer will let them go. In some companies, when a department manager hires people who can't do anything all day, they won't keep them for long either. They feel that keeping such a person serves no real purpose. The same principle applies here. Our body is actually just like a servant of the mind. This verse is mainly a reminder to our minds. See your body as a servant working for you. This servant is supposed to work for both your present and future lives. Has it done anything for that? If not, then keeping it, maintaining it, and caring for it all day long is actually meaningless. Eventually, when death comes, the body will leave you and will only be discarded in the charnel ground or crematorium. But your consciousness will continue to wander in the six realms, revolving through countless lifetimes endlessly. At that time, for your mind, the body is of no use at all. Why do you work so hard to cherish and care for it? There's no real benefit in always pampering it. So from this perspective, as Dharma practitioners, we should look inward in our minds and also om our body. First, we should reflect on our mental states. The methods of examining the mind have already been discussed repeatedly recently, so we won't go into that here. Today, let's observe how the body acts in doing good or bad. Some people's bodies are very obedient. When it comes to practicing virtue, they always follow the commands and instructions of the master, the mind. If the mind tells it to study diligently today, it will obediently do so. If the mind tells it to circumambulate or do prostrations, it's happy to do so. If the mind asks it to get up at 4 in the morning to read, memorize, or meditate, it is also very willing. So for some people, their body cooperates very well with the mind, and that's something to be grateful for. I sometimes think that my body has been working together with my mind for over 40 years now. During this time, sometimes due to past karma, my body gets sick, and in those cases, it may not function well or be obedient as it has always been, but at other times, it's quite cooperative, especially when it comes to practicing virtue. With that, I am quite satisfied. No matter what I ask, whether getting up early or staying up late, it is generally quite cooperative and obedient. But some people's bodies are not like this. Maybe for a day or two it can get up early, but in the long run, the body just doesn't want to get up. Mind, can I just sleep a little longer? I really don't want to get up. This bed is so warm and so comfortable. Can I sleep 5 more minutes or 3 more minutes? But before they know it, they've slept another hour or two. So when it comes to practicing virtue, the body just won't cooperate. For example, I want to attend a teaching or practice virtue or go to release captive lives. But in those situations, the body often refuses to cooperate. But when it comes to doing unwholesome actions, like killing or stealing, the body is full of energy and strength, and there's no problem at all. Some people's bodies are just like this. So we should treat the body with some discernment and not be overly indulgent toward it. There's not much point in being especially good to it. For example, some people always provide their bodies with the best supplements, food, and finest clothing. They believe that the sole purpose of living in this world is to care for the body. They hold this kind of view and attitude, but being so attached to it is actually meaningless. The true nature of the body is clear to everyone. As we've analyzed before and will observe again later, it's really just made up of flesh and bones. No matter how well you take care of it, once death arrives, you can't stop it from decaying at all. It's just like in summer, if you leave a piece of beef out in the heat, it will spoil in a few days. The quality of our body can only last at best for 100 years. That's the nature of this physical form. So there is no need to be overly attached to it. If you just have to fixate on this body, then use it to practice virtue and make aspirations. This is truly what is most important. Nowadays, people put all their money, energy, and time into maintaining their bodies, but this way of living is actually not very wise. If you really have that much energy and you have the right view, you should focus on guarding your mind and making noble aspirations so that you lay a solid foundation for yourself in this and future lives. This is extremely important. That's why throughout history, many eminent masters have never been overly attached to this body. They were never fussy about food or clothing, nor particular about such things. For example, there was a time when Master Hongyi was visited by the educator Xia Mianzun. When Xia Mianzun went to see Master Hongyi, he saw that the master lived a very simple and frugal life. At lunchtime, he only ate a single dish of pickled vegetables. Mr. Xia asked, "Master, isn't this too salty for you? Don't you find it too salty?" He replied, "Salty has its own flavor. It's quite good." After the meal, he drank plain boiled water with no tea leaves at all. Mr. Xia then asked, "Master, you don't even have tea. Isn't it too bland to drink just plain water?" He replied, "Bland has its own flavor. It's quite good." This was just a casual little chat, but from this we can see that the great masters of the past never lived in extravagance. They never valued material enjoyment like people do today. Many people now put all their energy into material pleasures and indulgences. This isn't a good thing. If you live like this, it's hard for any merit to arise in your mind. Ancient people never allowed themselves to live in such luxury. This lifestyle does nothing to nurture our resolve for spiritual practice. Take Confucius, for instance, who held knowledge in great esteem. This is well known to us all. He had 3,000 disciples, 72 of whom mastered the 6 arts. Some were from wealthy families, some were from poor ones. But the one he was especially fond of was called Yan Hui. Ancient books often mention him, saying, "How admirable is Hui, with just a simple bamboo bowl of rice and a gourd ladle of water." This means that among all those distinguished disciples, Yan Hui lived a very simple life. When he ate, he was content with just a simple meal. To drink just a ladle of water was enough for him. So, in some ancient texts, his spirit has always been praised. We too should reflect on this. If people today try to satisfy all their desires through material things, it will be extremely difficult. Material things in the world keep appearing endlessly. It's simply impossible to possess them all. So we should use the wisdom of the Dharma and the spirit of contentment with few desires to enrich ourselves. In this way, our resolve for the Dharma will keep growing and our greed and desires will gradually decrease. Then our minds can be easily adjusted. So here it is made very clear, if your body does not practice virtuous deeds, then you really should not take special care of it. But if it does practice virtue very well, then it's fine to treat it well, such as having a good meal. His Holiness used to joke about this. For example, if you did prostrations very well today, if you complete your daily tasks for the 500,000 preliminary practices, then at noon you can have a good meal. You can thank your body, "You've worked well with me today, so I'll give you a good meal." But if you only do 3 prostrations and are already sweating and can't go on, then you should punish the body by not giving it lunch. Sometimes when we look at the conduct of great masters, there's a lot we can learn from them. Next, let's look at the following verse. Now that you've given it a wage, put it to work for your own sake. Do not give everything to it if there's not any benefit. The meaning of this verse is, since we have already given the body the food and care it deserves, it's just like if a servant or worker performs very well in their jobs. The master should pay them their salary every month or every year. They will definitely be paid what they deserve. The wages they deserve should be given to them in full. But if they do not complete their tasks, then the master will consider not giving them the full salary. In the same way, we should also assess the work performance of our body. If it is truly diligent in doing good, you should provide it with enough food. But when you do so, you should also reflect, is it really acting in accordance with the Dharma? If it is, then you should give it the food and clothing it needs. By avoiding indulgence and deprivation, you can give it what is appropriate. After providing it with food, you must make sure it works for your own benefit. So what does it mean to accomplish something beneficial? According to the ornament of Mahayana Sutras, for someone who has generated bodhicitta, benefiting oneself is to benefit others. There is nothing else apart from benefiting others. So you must take the affairs of beings as your own. Take the suffering of sentient beings as your own suffering and their happiness as your own happiness. At the beginning, it may be difficult to do this, but as you gradually practice in this way, with the blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the power of your aspirations, it is definitely possible to reach this state. Dharma practice starts with small steps. You can't master it in a day or two. Today, I heard from a Dharma friend who called me from far away. He said, my teacher has instructed that within 3 years, each of his students must realize emptiness, so now I am especially busy. The teacher requires every one of us to realize emptiness. If this can really be achieved, that would be wonderful. However, for most people, even finishing elementary school in 3 years is not possible. But everyone's conditions and spiritual capacity are different. So if you really can realize it in 3 years, we'll all rejoice, let alone 3 years. If one can attain realization within 3 days, we would exert all means to offer our support. But from the biographies of past great masters, their spiritual capacities differ from ours. Even if some masters awakened easily, it was because they built a strong foundation over many lives. And in this life, their understanding and conduct are also very much in line with the Dharma. You may have seen this in some masters' stories. From childhood, their faith, understanding, and wisdom were outstanding. So for ordinary people to help and benefit all sentient beings in a short time is not something easy to accomplish. Except for a few with special aspirations and connections, it's generally quite difficult. So we should start with ourselves, with those around us, and with small things. If we keep accumulating in this way, our aspirations will definitely be fulfilled. Even helping just one being is meaningful. That's what I was thinking just now. Back to the phone call I received. After hearing what he said, I also wonder if I could attain realization in 3 years. I'm not sure about that. But hearing his words, I made this aspiration. Regardless of whether I can attain realization, if within these 3 years I can help even one person enter the Dharma, give rise to bodhicitta, and practice as virtue within 3 years, then living in this world will be meaningful. If I don't die, can I help at least one person? That's what I was thinking. Just now I saw something written by a young lay practitioner sharing her thoughts from studying the Bodhicharyavatara. After reading it, I was really touched. Why is that? Because as someone engaged in Buddhist education, I often see and hear articles full of empty talk. There are many such articles, either boasting about oneself or others. They always talk about all kinds of profound states, which may or may not be true. Sometimes it doesn't really inspire faith, but for that lay practitioner, she only studied for about 5 months, but from her words and actions, she really changed. She said she gave rise to aspirational bodhicitta, and you can see it in her writing. She really understands the concept of aspirational bodhicitta. She also said her life used to be very painful, but after encountering the Dharma, it really helped her. In dealing with people and things, she is learning to adjust herself. You can see it in many ways from her writing. After reading her letter, I felt that her aspirational bodhicitta has truly arisen, just as she said. Later, I thought, to teach the Bodhicharyavatara this time, I've put in a lot of effort these past 6 months. If even one person truly gives rise to aspiring bodhicitta, I feel it is all worth it. This is my true feeling. So I thought maybe I should print her article and share it with all of you. When a good deed is being done in society, it is promoted for everyone around the country to learn from. We may not have that ability or influence, but at least everyone here can take a look. After reading it, I was truly touched. Her transformation came from the heart, although she hasn't studied long, not even a year. If the Dharma arises in someone's mind stream, even for a moment, that change is lasting. Otherwise, practicing for a long time still has little meaning. As the Vinaya states, even if you have kept the bhikshu vows for 100 years, if you have not truly developed conviction and renunciation in your mind, then you are still like a 1-year-old child in the Dharma. So I think you can take a look at her writing later. There are also some words of praise for me in it, but honestly, it's a bit too much. I'm not just being modest. But apart from that, the rest is quite genuine. If you have time, take a look. This lay practitioner is from Guangzhou. I think our study of the Dharma is not just about words. It's not about talking big or doing things in a grand way. What matters is a real change from within. Back to the topic. Here it says that for our body, we should give it a certain salary. If it hasn't helped sentient beings or benefited ourselves, then giving it care, its salary, every day is unreasonable. If the body hasn't created any virtue in Dharma practice for this and future lives, but is very capable of creating negative karma all day, then we shouldn't give it anything. As the Chan master said, if you do not work for a day, you do not eat for a day. So when the body doesn't perform virtue, it should be punished, so that it knows how to behave. In the past, great masters were not attached to their bodies. They were not very attached at all. They just treated the body as a tool for practice, unlike people today who often indulge in bodily pleasures. As mentioned earlier, Master Hongyi once wrote about the daily life of Master Yingguang in his lecture records. Master Yingguang lived a simple life and cherished his merits very much. He would drink a bowl of thin porridge in the morning with no side dishes. After eating, he would lick the bowl clean with his tongue, just like how Tibetans licked tsampa. Some people asked, why do Tibetans have such long tongues? I used to joke, it's from practicing since childhood. If you practice licking tsampa from a young age, your tongue will get longer. After finishing the porridge, he would lick the bowl, then pour in some hot water, and if there were any grains of rice left, he would eat them all. At noon, he would have just one bowl of rice, with just one simple dish, nothing else. After eating, just like in the morning, he would pour water and eat all the rice grains. During his 30-some years of practice, he always lived such a humble life. Can we now still live like this? Actually, it's very hard. Some people don't achieve much in their practice, but it's not because of their living conditions. In fact, the simpler one's life, the higher their achievement tends to be. So, if you treat your body to the best food and clothing every day, your practice may not improve. In the past, Patrul Rinpoche often traveled throughout Tibetan regions to practice, living almost like a beggar. He only had one piece of woolen cloth to wear. His was a vegetarian, never had an attendant with him, and didn't ride horses, yaks, or any other animals. He practiced in a very simple and humble way, almost like a beggar. But his great realization and aspiration are well known to everyone in the world. So everyone should reflect on their own actions. Look at your own body. If it's really used for virtuous purposes, then it's fine to eat and dress a little better. But the world outside isn't like this now. People are always thinking about buying a fancier house. Yeah. Driving a better car, eating better food, wearing better clothes, and stay in luxury hotels to enjoy all kinds of pleasures. They rely on these things to feel fulfilled. Most people think this way. The more you think like this, the stronger your desire becomes. It keeps growing and is never under control. So we should often pray to the lineage masters. Although it may be unrealistic to live a life like in ancient times, we should still try to keep life simple and plain. Now, as practitioners, while practicing virtue, if we eat too much or dress too well, it really does affect our practice. I see that many people have changed their eating habits now. Westerners tend to be more practical with food. For example, when eating out together, they only order what they can eat. They won't order a lot if it will be wasted. But in the past, many of us like to show off, filling the table with food, ordering too much and leaving a lot, wasting food and still feeling proud about it. But now, maybe because of the Western influence, after eating, people pack up the leftovers and take them home. This is actually a good habit. As Buddhists, we should always consider others in our words and actions, act conforming to the truths of the world, and learn from the moral conduct of the ancients. In this way, our conscience will not fade, and our resolve for Dharma practice will keep growing. So this is how we should treat our body. If you feel you practiced well today and did things properly, then you can treat your body a bit better. If your body didn't do well in virtue today, it's okay to give it a little punishment. No need to be overly attached to it. Just as the Buddha said in the instructions to the king, foolish people are extremely attached to their bodies, while the wise are not attached to it at all. This is what the Buddha taught in the sutras. So, sometime we can easily tell whether one has high realization or not through their behavior. Especially by looking at how someone treats and is attached to their body, we can see their level of practice. Now let's move on to the next verse. Think of this body as a boat, a mere support for coming and going. Make it so it fulfills your wish to benefit all sentient beings. This verse means we should rely on the body to practice virtue, treating it like a boat for crossing a river. When crossing the river, you need to rely on a boat, so you can treat it as your support for coming and going. In the same way, as practitioners, just as the teachings say, we should regard our body as a boat in the ocean of samsara and rely on it to reach the other shore of liberation. Then, with the body, we can return and help countless beings. In the process of benefiting beings, we perform all deeds for their benefit by relying on this body. So, in terms of how we should treat the body, according to the Vinaya Pitaka, we should not fall into extremes. Not falling into extremes means, for example, if you eat too poorly, the body will lack nutrition and can't practice virtue properly. However, if you eat too much or live an overly indulgent life, then pride and attachment may arise, which will hinder you from practicing well. The same goes for clothing. If you dress too poorly or too thinly, then as beings in the desire realm still relying on the body, you cannot practice virtue properly. If you dress too extravagantly, like some people nowadays, always focusing on clothes and appearance, then all your time and energy is spent on this, which is unnecessary. So, as it says in the precepts, we should remain in a moderate state, not falling into either extreme. We need basic living necessities for practice. Otherwise, it's very difficult for beings in the desire realm to live, not to mention to practice. So, try not to fall into extremes. We need to rely on this impure body to benefit beings, at least temporarily. Ultimately, as we discussed before, this impure body can eventually transform into the wish-fulfilling jewel body of a Buddha. At a certain level of realization, our body can manifest countless forms to benefit limitless sentient beings. All of this is possible by relying on this very body. So our body should be used to help sentient beings. We should use it like a boat. In order to benefit beings, we must rely on it to practice and do good. All practices we engaged in, whether meditation, cultivating renunciation, or bodhicitta, are carried out through the body. Without the body, can the mind alone do these things? It would be quite difficult, as long as it's for the benefit of beings, even if a piece of our body is cut off. For someone who has generated bodhicitta, this is only natural and worthwhile. For example, in the Tang Dynasty, there was Master Zhishun, who was a truly remarkable practitioner. He often traveled on foot, practicing meditation outdoors. Once, to practice meditation, he went to the forest where he remained in meditation for a long time. While he was meditating, there was a hunter nearby. The hunter shot a wild pheasant with an arrow. The pheasant suddenly ran over to the master and hid in front of him. The master then covered and protected it with his robe. After a while, the hunter found the master and insisted on getting his prey back. Master Zhishun pleaded with the hunter, saying, "It is a living being after all. At most, this pheasant will just be one meal for you, one dish. Other than that, it brings you no real benefit. It is a living being, please let it go." But the hunter refused and insisted on having it back. He demanded that the master return the pheasant he had shot. The master tried to persuade him using all kinds of Buddhist teachings, but the hunter was very stubborn. There was no way to change his mind. In the end, in order to protect the pheasant, the master cut off his own 2 ears. with the knife he had with him and gave them to the hunter. He said, "Do these 2 ears make up for your dish of pheasant?" He gave them to the hunter. The hunter was terrified. From then on, he realized how cruel his past actions of killing animals had been. After that, he stopped hunting and began to practice virtue. As we can see, the actions of some Chan masters in the past are truly moving. Now, if we were to save a pheasant, could we endure such pain? It would be difficult, but we should still think this way. By relying on this body, if I can help sentient beings, that is the greatest honor and happiest thing to do. We should follow the examples of great masters of the past, using our own body, even our own flesh, to benefit sentient beings. We'll talk more about this later. Right now, since we are still ordinary beings, we have not reached the level of giving our own body without feeling regret. So we shouldn't do that right now. But as long as it's not unbearable, we should help sentient beings as much as possible. Everyone listening to the Bodhicharyavatara should aspire to help at least one being in 3 years. What does it mean to liberate or benefit others? It means skillfully guiding those who haven't taken refuge to do so, and further helping them develop bodhicitta. It doesn't necessarily mean that to guide someone who was once a successful business person to attain the rainbow body and dissolve into light, or to make them suddenly enlightened and display miraculous powers. There's no need for such high expectations. It is to help someone take refuge. Whether they ordain or not doesn't matter. The main thing is to help them develop faith in the Buddha and give rise to bodhicitta. That is what it means to benefit others. So each of us should try to use our own body to help beings. This is extremely important. Earlier, we learned how to guard our minds with awareness. Now we discuss training the mind after guarding it from 3 aspects. First, have awareness in all our conduct. Second, focus on training the mind. And third, purify obstacles to the mind. The first part is divided into 4 sections. The first section is about the general conduct at all times. This point is further divided into 3 parts. Our daily conduct should be peaceful, it should be in harmony with others, and skillfully engage in our own practice. Let's look at the first point, which is our daily conduct should be peaceful. The verse says, "In such a way, be self-controlled and always have a smiling face. Abandon glowering brows and scowls. Be friendly to beings and straightforward." This verse means we should be the master of ourselves in daily life. We must govern and control ourselves. Earlier, the principle of controlling oneself with mindfulness and awareness was explained in detail. So, first of all, each of us should be our own master, being self-controlled. The Buddha also taught this in the sutras. We should always observe our own body and mind. Don't act as if we have no control over ourselves. Some people may feel as if they can't control themselves at all when they have heart problems. They worry that they will lose self-control and cause some problems. But for most people, we can control ourselves. We should constantly remind ourselves, after all, I am a monastic, or I am a lay practitioner with bodhicitta. I am different from people in society. My conduct should be in accordance with the Dharma, and my attitude should not be too negative. Of course, for us ordinary beings, it is impossible to be like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who never have a single moment of affliction. But we have made vows before the Guru and the 3 jewels. We should at least practice some virtue in this life and gain some confidence for our future lives. This is a basic principle of practice, and the state of mind you cultivate through practice can also be reflected outwardly. If you have truly developed compassion or bodhicitta within, it should naturally show. For example, you will at least have some smiles. So whenever you meet someone, whether a Dharma friend that you are familiar with or a stranger, in your daily interactions with them, you should always offer a smile, because your smile may bring a lot of joy to others. A kind and gentle expression that we express to others can positively influence many people. For example, some great masters abroad have touched countless people through their smiles and gentle demeanor. Through their physical presence and actions, they have inspired and touched many people. Why is this? Because their expression and smile bring comfort and solace to so many people. Unlike them, some people, when dealing with others, always have a gloomy face and angry eyes with a very unhappy attitude. Many people around them are directly or indirectly affected by this. So those with bodhicitta should always wear a smile. If you really can't smile from within, at least try to smile outwardly. But in fact, a forced smile looks very awkward. Now everyone is smiling and your faces have changed instantly. Maybe for the next few days, everyone can maintain this state and be more kind when meeting each other. Here the verse also says, abandon glowering brows. That means smoothing out angry brows and angry faces and not having such an unhappy attitude. We should try to pacify our anger and avoid actions driven by it. In daily interactions, those with bodhicitta should maintain a gentle attitude. Although some Buddhas and Bodhisattvas may manifest in wrathful ways, this wrath is only displayed when necessary and for the benefit of beings. If peaceful means can't help, as in the past when Shantarakshita and King Trisong Detsen couldn't subdue. Some spirits and non-humans of Tibetan regions with peaceful means, they invited Guru Padmasambhava, who tamed them in a wrathful way. There are such cases. Some deities and Dharma protectors in Vajrayana also appear wrathful forms, but this is just an intentional manifestation and a skillful means to benefit beings. In daily life, after generating bodhicitta, we should be gentle, compassionate, and approachable. This way, everyone around us will be positively influenced. In our interactions with others, our hearts should be full of compassion and love. Such an attitude should be reflected in our expressions. This will also benefit sentient beings if, when interacting with others, we show a dismissive attitude and always respond to everything with dissatisfaction that is not appropriate. Especially nowadays, in our interactions and cooperation with others, we must have a spirit of unity and harmony. We must promote this spirit. If we don't, it will be very difficult for Mahayana Buddhism to flourish in this world. So I hope all of us here will keep this in mind. For example, volunteers here from different departments must be united. There is no reason for any disunity. If we cannot even have this basic tolerance and openness, it's impossible that we can benefit beings. Between different Buddhist schools and traditions, between different teachers, and between different groups of disciples, it is essential that we live in harmony. Recently, I've learned that Dharma friends studying this text come from many backgrounds: Jonang, Kagyu, Gelug, Chan, Pure Land, and Hawaiian schools. I see that they come from different schools of Buddhism. Seeing this honestly as an ordinary person who is still swayed by external circumstances, I truly am happy about this. I'm not happy because you're studying our Dharma. There is really no difference between our Dharma and yours. It's like in the world, there are many uneducated children, and we want them all to go to school. No matter which school they attend, as long as they complete their studies, I'm happy. Right now, in our Buddhist communities, many people are still quite new to Buddhism. They do not have much knowledge of the Dharma. Recently, a Dharma friend from Japan told me the following words. Although in many parts of Japan, Buddhism used to be relatively flourishing, it is not the case with the place I live in. Here, Buddhism has almost become just a formality. Many people treat it as just a ritual. Genuine study, contemplation, and practice, especially the cultivation and transformation of the mind, are almost non-existent. Actually, in some monasteries, whether in Tibetan or Han regions, Buddhism has also become just a formality. It's just about doing rituals or collecting tickets, or simply a way to make a living. Most people have not received the compassionate education of Buddhism. In truth, it does not matter which teacher's teachings you follow or which lineage you practice. The teachings of various schools that have descended from Shakyamuni Buddha are like nectar. They are equally beneficial to sentient beings. So Buddhists should maintain harmony with each other. If we can't even do this, how can we speak of liberating or inspiring others? Unfortunately, some Buddhist communities today are plagued by internal strife, rivalry, and jealousy. Such behavior is truly regrettable. If you possess genuine ability, you should direct your efforts toward countering non-Buddhist views. There are so many people who don't believe in karma and hold wrong views. It's unreasonable to be unfailingly polite in front of those with mistaken views, but within the Buddhist community, constantly dissatisfied, acting as if you are in charge. In some places, Buddhist groups are particularly lacking in harmony. For this reason, I sincerely hope that all schools, teachers, and disciples can foster harmonious relationships. Only in this way can the spirit of the Mahayana Bodhicitta be widely propagated. Some masters from Han Buddhism are doing well in this aspect, and I deeply rejoice in their conduct. Through various channels, they help many people gain an understanding of different schools of Buddhism, including Tibetan Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, and of course Han Buddhism. It doesn't matter which school they follow, they spread the teachings equally. Regardless of which tradition we follow, whether it's Han or Tibetan Buddhism, we should learn from one another, respect one another, and approach differences with an open mind. Only then can the Dharma truly flourish. In recent years, some Han Buddhist masters also engage in dialogue with eminent Tibetan Buddhist teachers, using wise and open discussions to clear up doubts and help many people. Whether in Han or Tibetan regions, many people have doubts about the schools they are unfamiliar with, wondering if it was just like following non-Buddhist paths. Some who study Tibetan Buddhism look down on Han Buddhism, while some senior Han Buddhist teachers are dismissive of Tibetan Buddhism, maintaining a conservative stance and restricting their disciples from exploring other traditions. Of course, if a teacher's realization is profound and are able to guide their disciples to complete studies, that is excellent. But if one cannot teach well, yet prevents disciples from learning elsewhere, this is not ideal. We should have an open mind, learn what is worth learning, and draw on strengths wherever we find them. It's the same with the development of nations. When a country shuts itself off, it only hinders its own progress. Some have now realized this. It's like when a nation invents something new, other countries quickly adopt it to strengthen themselves. So I think Buddhists should do the same, work together, support each other, and spread the Dharma. In this process, there is no need for confrontation. This is unnecessary, because Buddhism is inherently very harmonious. Even when interacting with other religions or non-religious people, we should maintain a spirit of harmony rather than conflict. So as Buddhists, we should not constantly argue over your disciples and my disciples, or your teacher and my teacher. Wherever there is genuine Dharma, we should be open to learn. People with difficult personalities always seem to clash with others. We have a Tibetan proverb that says, a person with a bad temper is like a pair of horns in a sack. A horn is naturally crooked. If you put them in a sack, it will make the sack hard to carry and keep scraping inside. Similarly, a person with a difficult character brings unrest to any group they join. They don't fit in anywhere. Whether in a small group or a large one, in the Kagyu school or in Chan Buddhism, whether among Buddhists or non-Buddhists, they cannot get along with anyone. But we shouldn't act this way. Especially as followers of the Mahayana path, we must learn to be tolerant and treat all sentient beings as we treat ourselves. Is there any need for sectarian exclusion? Not at all. So I sincerely hope that when practicing virtue, we should set aside sectarianism and devote ourselves to helping others. With such an attitude, we can accept anything. Otherwise, we will confine ourselves to a narrow space, unwilling to accept or learn from anything outside our own limited view. Next, the verse says that when we speak to others, we should be friendly and straightforward. Don't be like some people today who only speak flowery words, but in fact, they're all empty and meaningless and often full of deception. Especially for those with bodhicitta, always speak the truth. The letter to a friend divides speech into beautiful words, truthful words, and deluded words. As Mahayana practitioners, we must speak the truth. Be an honest person and speak truthfully. This is our principle. While society may value cunning speech to deceive others, which is the way of the world, having generated bodhicitta, we should try to avoid that. This is very important. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Om Bandhara Padma Sada Om Bandhara Padma Sada